The leaders of the Chinese Communist Party wear suits, not turbans, so it's easy to think they respect Western values and due process and human rights. But 25 years after China was admitted to the World Trade Organization, all that hope of economic growth and that it would foster democratic reform, well, we've learned a bitter lesson. It didn't foster democratic reform. The ongoing case of pro-democracy advocate Jimmy Lai underscores what we're talking about. Jimmy Lai has been in jail since 2020 because the newspaper that he founded pushed freedom and was critical of the Chinese regime's crackdown on Hong Kong's historic independence. China accused Jimmy Lai of stirring up anti-government protests. They shut down his newspaper and they sentenced him to 20 years in prison, a lifetime for a man who's now 78. In the lead up to President Trump's trip to China, Jimmy Lai's family pleaded for him to bring up the case of their father. They got that much, but that's where the answered prayers ended. Earlier today, President Trump told reporters what President Xi told him about Jimmy Lai and any chance that they would show Lai mercy.
I've got Jimmy Lai.
For him, it's a very, he told me, I don't want to mislead anybody. He said Jimmy Lai is a tough one for him to do. You know, they went through a lot, and right or wrong, they went through a lot. So he told me that would be a tough one.
It is a heartbreaking setback for Jimmy Lai's family and an ominous indicator of what might happen to Taiwan's people should China invade. Moments ago, I spoke with Jimmy Lai's daughter, Clare. Clare, your dad is 78 years old. He's been in jail now for 7 years. First of all, how is he doing health-wise?
He's been diabetic for a long time, but you know his blood sugar is now checked once every 3 weeks, if even that. He has heart issues, which he didn't previously have. High blood pressure. Every summer he has like heat rashes, which are basically like big red bumps on his body, which are painful as well. And he has infections that spread and just last for months, and just like several signs of like a severely compromised immune system. And his hearing and eyesight have, you know, just deteriorated very, very rapidly as well. And just, you know, the average life expectancy of a male in Hong Kong is 82. That's last year. The year before it was 81. And, you know, my father's not far from that. So, you know, we're extremely worried about him.
Yeah, I can imagine your father was arrested after he was publishing a newspaper that was critical of China and critical of President Xi. As you say, he spoke truth to power, and he knew that doing so was dangerous. Why was it so important for him to keep doing this, even though he knew it was so dangerous?
You know, my father was born as far away from freedom as one possibly could. I mean, he was born in mainland China in a well-to-do family shortly before the communists came to power. His family and him, you know, they became the enemy of the people then. And so he saw the cruelties of the regime, I mean, from a very young age. I mean, from the political shootings to my grandma having to kneel on broken glass, those are things that he had nightmares about as an adult. I mean, he saw those from the age of 5. Doing business, he then came to America, and he had access to, you know, greater knowledge and ideas. And, you know, like he once described it as, you know, before it was like, you know, he believed when he went to Hong Kong that he could do more and have more. But when he came to America, he realized that he could actually be more. And that's sort of, and for him, it was so much of that came from, you know, having a huge marketplace of information and ideas. And that for him was delivering freedom. So that's why so much his life was delivering freedom to people, and that's why he wanted to do that.
But, you know, he was the target of an assassination attempt before. Your home was firebombed. So for years, he knew that he was really tempting fate by publishing this newspaper and, as you said, speaking truth to power. And why, despite the danger, did he continue to do this?
You know, Dad, when Dad started Apple Daily, his newspaper, it was shortly before the handover. So it was a time when a lot of people in Hong Kong were already filled with certain doubts. And actually, it's also shortly before he joined the Catholic Church. And it was like there was certain doubt, and he opened his heart up to God, and you know, he knew that he had certain gifts. You know, he was the steward, and he was ultimately answerable to a higher power.
President Trump said he did bring up your father's case with Chinese President Xi, but that Xi said, quote, "It's a tough one." It did not sound promising. Have you heard from anyone in the administration about what that conversation entailed and what hopes there might be to get his release?
We have not, but I just want to stress how grateful I am and we are. President Trump and his administration. I mean, he truly is a man of his words. This is the second time that he has brought up my father directly with President Xi, and he has shown a continuous commitment to freeing my father, and we are just so endlessly grateful for it. And it's of course it's my father represents so many values that are so important to people like you and me, but sharply inconsistent with the Chinese Communist Party. But he was always anti-violence, he was always just pro-democracy, and he was always anti-independence of Hong Kong. And all he wanted was the promises made during the Sino-British Joint Declaration to be kept. And that's the treaty that China signed.
Well, he is in prison now because that was all he wanted, and that was what he advocated for. There have been many lawmakers in the United States who've been urging President Trump to do whatever he can to press President Xi. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that, we have offered China, quote, "any arrangement to secure your father's freedom." I know he's been sentenced to 20 years in prison. At his age, that is, in effect, a life sentence.
Absolutely. I mean, at first I called it a life sentence, and afterwards I changed to a death sentence, because if he's kept in solitary confinement, he doesn't have access to fresh air or sunlight.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.